Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story, which comes from ThrowRA-wife-sister and says, my 37 male, wife's 34 female, sister, 29 female, tried to kiss me, and now my wife is spiraling. Help me. Sorry for how long this is. TLDR at the bottom. As the title says, my wife's sister made a pass at me at a recent family gathering, and I have no idea what to do. For context, I think my wife, Jenna, is absolutely gorgeous, but she has some really negative body image issues. This is in large part because of her sister, Mary, who is very conventionally attractive, as opposed to Jenna's more unconventional but, in my opinion, striking beauty. Mary was a successful model until a couple of years ago and now works in the fashion industry. In our early days of dating, when I would tell Jenna she's beautiful, she would always say, "Just wait till you see my sister." When I did finally meet her family, she would randomly press me for weeks to talk about her sister, whether I thought she was more attractive than her, etc. I always told her the truth that I think Mary is attractive in a boring way, and I think my wife is much more beautiful and interesting to look at. She wouldn't let it go until I confronted her about how uncomfortable it made me and asked her what was going on. This is when she told me that she always had a chip on her shoulder about her looks because of being compared to her sister growing up. They fell into the classic smart one / pretty one dynamic their whole lives. She also said Mary had a habit of being flirty with all of her exes and warned me that it would happen to me eventually. She then started sobbing and begging me not to cheat on her with her sister, to which I forcefully said I would never cheat on her with anyone, let alone her sister. I've been crazy about my wife since day one, and there's literally no woman on earth who could come close to her. I honestly didn't believe her about the flirting at first. I assumed it was just an extension of her insecurity, but I was wrong. Whenever we get together with my wife's family, Mary always finds ways to touch me and makes little innuendos / comments about me or my body. It's super uncomfortable for everyone, especially my wife, and I've called her out on it before. She'd be cool with it for a while, but eventually start doing it again. It's been 6 years of this, and every time it happens my wife is upset for days and I have to do a lot of reassuring. On to the current problem. A few days ago, we're at my mother-in-law's birthday party, and Mary asked me to help her grab some things from the garage. As soon as we walked into the garage, she turned and pressed me up against the door with her whole body and started trying to kiss me. I immediately pushed her off and asked her what the F she was doing. She started giggling and saying she was just doing what we both had been thinking and kept insisting, "You know you want to." I told her she was out of her mind and ran out of there. I went straight to my wife and told her that we were leaving. The whole ride home, she was asking me what was wrong. I wasn't sure whether to tell her because I knew how much it was going to hurt, but I also thought Mary would probably try to spin it as me making a move on her, so I knew I just had to say it. I told her everything, and she cried the whole way home. For the last several days, Mary has been calling and texting my wife, doing exactly what I thought she would do, even telling my wife that I said she, Mary, was the hottest girl I've ever seen, which I had to assure my wife a million times that I did not and would never say, even though that she believes my account of the situation. She's been a complete wreck the last several days. She's hardly eating. She pulls away from my touch when I try to hug her or just hold her hand. She says she feels hideous and disgusting, and I don't know what to do. This is the lowest I have ever seen her, and it hurts to see how much she's hurting. I have no idea what to do to help her heal from this. Reddit, what should I do? And we're going to start off in the comments with Honest Illusions, because OP does reply to some of the comments and says, all family gatherings that include Mary must now be non-attendable. Your wife knows what an awful woman her sister is, and hopefully the rest of the family does too. Be honest, your wife's sister is evil. You've reassured your wife of your love and faithfulness. Your wife is incredibly insecure about herself, so obviously a professional may be in order for her and yourself to talk to. You love your wife, so stand by her and be there to support her. OP responds saying, my in-laws definitely enable her behavior. She's the golden child. They brag about her constantly, even though my wife is literally a neuroscientist. Their mum was a pageant queen, and she was their dad's much younger trophy wife. Honestly, we may have to go no contact with all of them. Thumb of Justice replies to that saying, "Your marriage and your wife's happiness is at stake here. This calls for drastic measures. I agree that you cannot be around the sister. The sister is poison. She's actively seeking to ruin your marriage, and I think that you need couples counseling to talk about this in a neutral setting, and also some individual therapy for your wife. I'm so sorry all this happened. You and your wife sound like wonderful people, and I'm rooting for you." Ray Adventures says, "Tell your wife that you're getting a restraining order against her sister for sexually harassing you. That ugly POS is an absolute narcissist who thinks she's entitled to the world because of her looks." OP responds saying, "I might try to do this. A friend of mine pointed out that what she did was literal sexual assault. I don't know how restraining orders work though. Will they actually do anything if it's just my word against hers?" J.M. Flynn says, "Why is she believing the sister's text if you had such a strong reaction to the attempted kiss? Point out that you immediately left and told her about it and show her all the communication between you and the sister. It won't solve everything overnight, but you can at least prove you never said the stuff to the sister." OP responds saying, "I know she doesn't actually believe her sister. I think it's just her insecurity getting the better of her. It's not logical." And one more comment from Spiteful Sundew who says, "OP, you were sexually assaulted. There is no appropriate response to Mary going forward other than the extreme hostility. Refuse to have anything to do with her ever again. Get your wife into a therapist or inpatient care immediately. That, or ask her what it is she wants moving forward, because if she's willing to blindly take the word of someone who has historically hurt her for fun over the husband who has supported her for half a decade, then what the hell are you even doing together? In all honesty, you should have publicly humiliated her long before it became years of this. A single, 'Mary, I told you not to effing touch me, I'm a married man, get a life,' at a family dinner would have burned her down for good. If you guys recover from this, your wife has to sever contact with Mary for good, or your marriage will never survive." So then OP did update their post, which says, "I got a few requests for updates, so here it is. I first want to thank everyone so much for your advice. It was extremely helpful and gave me a lot to think about. I'm especially thankful for the folks that asked me how I was doing. I realized that I have literally never had a chance to check in with myself after these things happened. And I've actually been holding a lot of frustration and resentment about it all. I've been harassed for years, and it has either been brushed off or it's been eclipsed by the impact it has on my wife. I don't blame her for it, but this has been a good lesson in me not burying my feelings for the sake of others, even for her. I also want to clarify a couple of things that came up. Several people asked about how my wife's family feels about all this, and I explained in the comments that her parents are toxic and treat Mary as the golden child, even though my wife is a freaking neuroscientist, amazingly talented musician, speaks 3 languages fluently and another 2 conversationally. My wife and her family are seriously the only people who don't seem to understand how exceptional she is. I remember meeting one of my wife's family friends and talking to them about her research. They said, 'Oh wow, her parents just told us she works at a university.' Whereas my parents literally introduce her as the family genius to everyone. It makes me so effing angry to think about how her a-hole family has stolen her shine her whole life. She's literally a Renaissance woman, but all they care about is looks and money. Some folks ask me why I would even put myself in a situation alone with Mary given everything she has done. I have no good answers for that other than I never thought she would actually try to do anything. That possibility just didn't exist in my head. I realize now I should have seen this would have happened eventually, and that I should have been less concerned with keeping the peace and more concerned with shutting Mary's crap down before it escalated to this point. Hindsight is 2020. Anyway, on to the update. The night I posted, I told my wife that if she wanted to try and repair a relationship with her sister, I would respect that, but that I don't feel comfortable being around her for the foreseeable future. I said Mary has obviously been deeply jealous of my wife her whole life because she is a hollow, ugly person whose entire value has an expiration date while my wife actually has substance. I said that I think her whole family is toxic and has done nothing but put her down her whole life, but that only she can decide whether she still wants them in her life. I also told my wife that while I don't blame her for her emotional reaction, her insecurity is something that she needs to work on for our relationship to be healthy. What Mary did was sexual assault, and she's been sexually harassing me for years. But I have consistently put aside my own feelings about this problem because of how it affects her. And that has prevented me from getting the support that I need too. I told her that her reaction only serves to punish herself and me for her sister's behavior, and there's no reason to give her that kind of power. I also told her something that a commenter said that really resonated with me. The only people who have ever considered her second best are her and her family. Everyone else sees her for who she really is. She was crying the whole time and agreed that she needed to go to therapy to work on her insecurity. We were able to find a therapist who specializes in body image / self-esteem issues to work with her individually. We're looking for a coupled therapist too. My wife sent a message to her parents and sister that explained exactly what happened and told them that she would reach out to them if she ever feels ready to repair their relationship. We blocked all of them everywhere, but Mary has of course been spamming my family and our friends with nonsense, claiming I attacked her, I'm a drug addict, I abused my wife, all kinds of bullcrap that thankfully nobody believes. My wife is still down in the dumps, but I can see that things are getting a little better. She's eating and sleeping more, and she's cuddling with me in the mornings again, which is nice. Now I'm planning a surprise getaway for us this weekend. We're going to one of our favorite places, and I'm going to wine and dine her and try to make her feel like the goddamn queen she is. I want to thank you all again for your help. You really helped me understand the severity of the problem, and again, thanks for helping me connect with my own feelings about all this. You all are the best. Now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Put yourself in OP's position. How would you feel? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from the Am I the A-Hole subreddit, and it does have an update as well, which comes nearly a year later. So it came from I Am Confused 007, who says, am I the a-hole for not reacting right to a colleague telling me he is gay? I feel like I could be in the wrong here, even if I don't understand why. To be honest, there have been incidents in the past where I have unwittingly been rude without intending to. There are some social norms that escape my understanding, which is why I would appreciate some impartial, unbiased input, and I'm posting here. One of my colleagues, H, technically I am his boss, not sure if that matters, came into my office today. I have an open door policy to encourage team members to come forward and share their ideas, so this was not that unusual. H came into my office and said, I am gay. I thought that he would be saying something else, so I waited for him to continue. After a moment, I made a sound of assent to make it clear I heard him. He still didn't say anything. Since he was staring at me, I assumed he was trying to convey something I wasn't understanding. Here's where I might have messed up. The first thing I said, my friend specifically scolded me because this was the first thing I said, was to ask if he had any insights into marketing to that demographic. We work in a marketing firm. H said he hadn't. I asked him if he was getting married and he needed time off. This too, I have been informed, was an a-hole-ish response. H said he wasn't married. I finally said that if H had nothing else he wanted to discuss, he should leave as I had a meeting starting in a few minutes and needed the office. He left. Shortly afterwards, a mutual friend scolded me and said I was a right a-hole for the way I responded to H. Am I the a-hole for how I responded? If so, could you please explain? 1. What I did wrong. 2. What should have been the right response. 3. How can I fix this? Now, this feels like a not the a-hole to me at all. Someone walks into your office, says that I'm gay, and then just stares at you. Yeah, I'll just stare straight back at them as well and sort of go, okay. But it's also likely to be a huge thing for your colleague as well to come out to you to let you know that he is gay. I think it was just two awkward responses. I think if I was in that situation and I reacted like you initially, and again, this is only from a personal point of view, I'd probably go up to them, in a quiet moment or say, look, I know that was probably extremely stressful for you and I didn't mean to come across uncaring in any way. I think it's awesome. Good on you kind of thing. And just be done with it. But maybe Mabo says, no one's an a-hole here. I'm bi and honestly this made me laugh, as it reminds me of coming out to my autistic friend, who thought it was obvious and wondered why I was bringing it up. Honestly, poor guy, since coming out can be stressful and he probably didn't expect this kind of outcome. But not like you said anything homophobic or unkind in any way. You were clearly caught off guard and just responded as a boss. Best thing to do is just hit up the guy in private and say sorry if your reaction was upsetting, that you clearly have no issues with anyone's sexuality, and that you are glad he felt he could tell you, and that if anyone in the workplace has an issue with his sexuality, you hope he feels he can come to you. Hopefully, he sees the funny side. Swag says, not the a-hole. Isn't this sort of the long-term goal for when someone comes out? For it not to be a thing and just business as usual? Narake says, it depends. Every person coming out has a different expectation. Many consider it a special moment which needs acknowledgement. Others need support. Others have different expectations. My own reaction tends to be minimalistic unless I suspect that I'm the one first being told, in which case I try to be ultra supportive. The real Uber Woot says, not the a-hole. Your awkward response mimed his awkward comment. This may have been some revelation or deeply troubling secret he has held, so it was a big deal to him. But it's 2022. People are gay. It's nothing. He responded as such. Just a response to that and says, being gay is not nothing in 2022. People are still oppressed for being gay, even in developed nations. But this employee coming into his boss's office just to blurt out he was gay is strange. OP isn't his friend or family, so OP asking if he was getting married and needed time off was completely normal because that's the only way that the employee's personal life should matter to him. Meth says, not the a-hole. I think it's a bit weird you jumped immediately to marketing. I think rainbow capitalism is BS, but I guess it makes sense with your job. Other than that, that was a weird and a bit uncalled way to come out in my opinion. OP says, people normally come into my office to share ideas for marketing campaigns, which is why I assume that. What would be a better response? Meth says, alright, that's fair. It pertains to your job, so it makes sense you asked that. Just to be clear, my last sentence was directed at him, not you. I think maybe you should have just kicked him out and maybe asked if there's something you could do for him. Who knows, maybe he wanted to know if you had his back in case co-workers get nasty. But in the end, I think your reaction was understandable. Reads just like a weird situation. So, OP updates the post nearly a whole year later, and the title is, He's my brother-in-law now. I never really thought I would ever post an update, but I wanted to share the good news. Nearly a year after my junior college, H unexpectedly came out to me at work. He's become engaged to my brother. At the advice of this forum, I had a follow-up conversation with H to ensure that he was not facing any type of harassment or discrimination, and to try to understand what prompted his exclamation. It's fortunately nothing major, and as H seemed to find the conversation embarrassing. A month later, my parents finally got the courage to ask Jay, my father's assistant, about adoption. My parents had met Jay several years ago when he was huddling by the side of the road. He had aged out of the foster system, but due to lack of support, he could not get a job and was homeless. My parents had invited him to spend the night, and he has been working as my father's assistant ever since. Jay has been like a second son to my parents for a long time, and after a late night conversation when Jay opened up to how alone he sometimes felt because he had no family, my parents asked him how he would feel about adult adoption. I wasn't there when they asked him, but at the family dinner afterwards, it was very emotional and long overdue. However, as the days went on, Jay seemed to get more and more anxious and seemed to withdraw from us. Nearly a month later, he told us in a shaking voice that he couldn't go through the adoption because he has been deceiving us. He was gay. Now, throughout all his time with my family, Jay had never dated. We all had assumed he was just shy or uninterested, so it was heartbreaking to hear that he felt he needed to censor himself and that he thought we would leave him if we knew the truth. It was a painful conversation that ended happily, and the next day, Jay went with my parents to file the paperwork. At that time, my siblings and I were wondering how we could show Jay he had nothing to worry about. When I remembered H and asked him if I could share his email with Jay, I've been thinking that it would be good for Jay to have a friend who was out. I never imagined they would start dating and become engaged. Holy moly, what a twist that I wasn't expecting in that story. An absolute wonderful one. It broke my heart when he thought he was deceiving them because he was gay. That brought me to tears, man. Someone sitting there thinking that. And I absolutely know that's not uncommon, but it still breaks my heart to read it. But what do you guys make of this situation? I'm glad it turned out the way it did. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, and your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being involved, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care. Much love.
Wake up, get up, stretch my legs, eat some breakfast, milk and eggs, brush my teeth up, wash my face, throw my clothes on, start my day. Wake up, I can smell the smoke from the bacon. Let's go, see the sun shining from the windows. Okay, I know that today'll be a good day. Okay, I know that today'll be a good day. A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. Drink some water, brush my better not stretch.